Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Dr. Angel Storm. Today I'm talking to you about delayed gratification, and more specifically, how do you know that you're on the right path if you haven't been able to see changes brought about quickly after you've made a decision to stop doing a certain thing, start doing a certain thing, and how do you know that you're actually on the right course? So I posted a graphic on my social medias a few months ago that said, change brings opportunity and quick change will bring quick opportunity. And I absolutely agree with that, right? The moment you decide to leave something and start something different, or however this comes about, maybe it's just to fill that space with something different. You're going to start seeing an instant change in the way that you view life. And what I mean by that is a true change, a true lifestyle change. So even if you think I'm going to start this specific workout plan or this specific diet, or I'm going to start going to this type of course or take this type of class or whatever it is. When we start to actually embody the knowledge that we're getting in whatever sector of our lives that we're trying to absorb information in, you're going to start to see a change in the way that you view life, the way that you view the choices that you would have made in before making that change. You're going to see how stark the contrast is now that you started to make this change. So just as a quick example, let's say before you started counting calories, you never would have noticed how many extra calories you were eating that had no nutritional value. But once you started paying attention to how many calories you were consuming every day, now all of a sudden you're seeing how many empty calories you used to be eating. What was normal to you is now in stark contrast to the type of life that you want to have, and so it's more evident to you in your daily life. And the more that you walk this way, the more you're going to see these habits, these patterns emerging in the people around you, right? You're going to start to see, okay, I ate this way because that's the way I was raised, or this is what my escape mechanism was, right? This is what was my source of comfort. This was my source of solace. And that's the reason why I started developing these habits, and I see that I'm passing that on to my kids or whatever. This is just one example. But you understand what I'm saying here, which is that when you make a change, when you make a quick change especially, there's going to be more opportunities for you to see how these patterns have not only influenced you and infiltrated your life, but also your family's life and those people who are closest to you. It's just going to stand out to you more and more. But sometimes we make changes where we are trying to undo an entire cycle. You know, I posted last week a lot about how you can make a change, but that doesn't mean that you're done with the process. That change should be unto another change and unto another change. In other words, I can do a different behavior. So let's say I used to always watch 2 hours of Netflix when I come home from work. I sit down on the couch and I immediately watch 2 hours of Netflix to recuperate or just like relax from my day, right? Before I move on to something else in the evening. Okay, I want to change that. So let's say I've made a change where I'm not going to do that. That isn't, if stopping Netflix was the behavior change that I was after, in order to maintain that, I actually have to have a heart change. I have to have a mindset change. The way that I look at this transition period between work time and done with work time needs to change, right? I can't just not fill it with Netflix. I actually need to fill it with something else. I just can't say I'm going to stop doing this, because there is no such thing as a void. There's no such thing as empty space. That's always being filled by something else. So just because you stop Netflix, it doesn't mean that you're going to have a different lifestyle change. The actual changes that you want to see, if instead of Netflix, you go sit at a bar for 2 hours. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can exchange one bad behavior for another. And most often people do this. People stop being addicted to whatever they think is the worst vice, but they actually are still an addict. They have never changed. That heart has not changed. Their mindset has not changed, and they've exchanged one addiction for another. When you want to see an actual pattern change, an actual lifestyle change, then that one change, stopping Netflix, needs to lead unto something else. I need to have a different mindset change about the way that I look at my job or my family time. I need to have a heart change about these things. If my job is not fulfilling me, I need to look and really question, am I living my purpose? Is my purpose supposed to be this difficult? So we just have to be able to have more self-awareness so we understand why we're doing the things that we're doing. Like I mentioned last week, most of us think we're making conscious choices, and we are not making conscious choices. We are instinctively acting out behaviors that have been written in our DNA. There's actual genetic reasons why we continue to repeat certain behaviors and certain patterns of behavior. And there's also mindsets, there's beliefs. Even if you think you don't have that belief, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I've always said this, your behaviors follow belief, and that is true. Whether you think you're doing it out of a trauma response, the root of that trauma is still a belief. There's a belief that set in when you experience that trauma, or when you were going through that phase of trauma, that still has a hold over you, and that's the reason why you're doing the habits. If you want to shortcut the recovery time from that trauma, you need to find out what the false belief is, uproot that, and plant a new belief there in the system, in that place instead. Okay, so how does this all relate to delayed gratification? Because sometimes we make a quick change, right? And we're expecting that quick opportunity. I have stopped eating a large pizza every day, and now I am eating instead a large salad every day, and I'm expecting to see that quick change. What happens when it's something bigger? What happens when I'm leaving a narcissist, and now I'm inside the court system, and I don't seem to be getting any justice? There's nothing happening in my case. Or maybe I've left that job that was causing me to want to go into escape mode with Netflix every night. So I'm starting my own business, but I'm not having the traction that I thought I should be having, right? So what happens when we've made a quick change? I've decided I'm dedicating that 2 hours of Netflix instead to starting my business, but I haven't had any traction. I don't see any fruit of my labor. So how do you know that is actually the right choice, or if you've made a bad decision and you are walking down a path that isn't going to ever lead to any fruit? And this is especially true with long-term goals, because sometimes we can understand, I'm gonna make this a long-term commitment, and I might not see anything happening for a year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever. So how do I know that that's a relevant goal? How do I know that this is eventually going to lead me to the type of life that I want to live? First of all, I encourage you to do what I told you to do in the last video of doing that exercise. We're actually looking and seeing if there's any fear. If you have fear when you think about memories of your past, when you think about past experiences, because if you have fear there, you really need to go back and uncover why you have fear. Fear is a red flag to tell you there is something valuable that I need to uncover here. There's something that unless I do not discover what is underneath there, fear is going to it's going to overcome me. It's going to overtake my mindsets, and I'm bound to repeat the same cycles regardless of how much therapy or how many books I read or whatever it is that I'm doing to try to avoid making that same mistake. That fear is growing, and it's going to cause me to think in a way out of fear. By the way, fear from an evolutionary standpoint, the reason that humans have fear is to shut down to stop creative thinking, to immediately go into survival mode. Okay, and this is why when you go into survival mode, there are it is necessary sometimes, right? There are real life situations where we need to have that instinct. The problem is when we try to bring that instinct into a situation where we're not facing a life or death situation, and we actually need to see the full perspective. We actually need to have a full account of whatever our landscape is in order to make the right decision for us at that moment. When I'm acting out of fear in that moment, I'm only able to see survival mode. That does not mean thriving, right? So this is why people, by the way, who are in poverty are thinking, where can I get my next meal? How do I pay this bill? How can I keep, if I pay this bill first, then I'll have more money on the credit card to pay this bill over here. It's thinking like that, but they're never planning for the future. They're never thinking about thrival mode. They're only in survival mode. And this is problematic to live your life constantly like this. Physically, that's a problem. We have people who are going into adrenal fatigue over things that are completely preventable. Completely avoidable, had they understood I operate in a cycle and I need to interrupt that cycle for the long term, for my longevity of my life, right? So there are reasons why we do have fear, when fear comes to us and we shut down creativity mode, that's because we need to use it to survive. We need to be able to correctly assess the situation. Am I in a true survival situation? And if I'm not, what is preventing me from being able to address the situation from a place of safety, security, and ultimately love, right? Which is going to unlock the creative parts of your brain, parts of your mind, and things like that. So I hope that this is all making sense. I'm talking now to you about a true non-survival mode. I'm not talking to you about when there is a real life or death situation. I'm talking about your regular daily life. So I've explained to go back into these past situations that still do hold fear, understand that you're not in that situation anymore, and seeing what can we make peace with in those situations, and also gather wisdom from, so that we can bring that now into our present. When we do research on what we are to do with there's a reason why we've made a long-term goal. And hopefully as part of your long-term goal, you've done research into how long it's going to take you to reach that goal, what type of effort is going to be required of you to reach that goal, what type of people you should be surrounding yourself with to help you, whether they're mentors or they're experts, they're people you're partnering with, whatever it is, you're going to need a community around you for these long-term goals. So who are the people who are speaking into you? You've done research into these things, right? You should also research what these experts have said about past failures. And I kind of touched on this a little bit in my last video, where I said, you've found these people who have gotten the result that you want to get, who are experts and potentially authoritative in that arena. You've gone to them and you're listening to what they're telling you to do, but you're chopping up the parts of advice that you're going to take. I'm going to take that one. I'm going to leave that one. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to definitely do that part, and expecting to have the same results they did. Make sure that when you are with the expert or the mentors that you've chosen to help you achieve this long-term goal, you ask them what has not worked for you. Because the thing that you're thinking of putting in that place, chances are they've already done that. They've already tried that. And if they haven't, well then great, go ahead and go try it. But the point being, lots of people think we only talk about success from the end result perspective, typically. And so you see the end result and people are telling you do A, B, C, D, and E. And you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to skip A, I'm going to skip B, not understanding that the reason that they can give you a synopsis is because they've probably tried the entire alphabet 10 times over on ways to achieve the end goal. And that's something that is really important, that you understand, hey, somebody else may have already tried the thing you're thinking of trying. So research the failures. Ask people about their failures. The failures led up onto success. Those are the things that they've already tried. And so we often do throw those away but it's important to let those things have a place in the story, because they are an important part of it. I also just want to touch on a mindset really quick. If you never tell yourself you can't do it, if you just never let that come into your mind, you will not ever be defeated. You will not ever be defeated. It doesn't matter what your goal is. It doesn't matter what your long-term objective is. If there is never a question of, okay, if this doesn't work, then I'm going to do this. Or if somebody over here doesn't help me, then I'm going to do this. If there's no movement from your internal self of, this is my goal, I'm going to reach this goal. And I don't care how many ways I have to try, I'm just going to have that goal. There's no way that you can fail at achieving that goal, as long as you are willing to be consistent and dedicated. You know, again, you can't have those doubts. I make it a personal habit to never tell myself that I can't do something, that it's not going to be possible. Just really quick, I'll just tell you a quick story about this. When I was thinking about going to get my Ph.D., I had about 6 months between my master's and my doctorate. And during that 6 months, I was researching schools, and I was talking to other Ph.D.s about their experience going through a program and things like this, and just really deciding if I was going to commit to doing that or not. And I'll tell you what nobody told me was how much work it was going to be. You might think, of course, it's going to be work. That's a doctorate level degree you're trying to achieve. Of course, that's going to be work. Yeah, I got that, because I've been used to hard work. I had 3 bachelors by this time. I had a master's degree by this time. I deployed twice already. I understand hard work, right? That wasn't the problem. The problem was nobody told me, like, here's a bachelor's degree, here's a master's degree, here's a doctorate degree. The step between a master's and a PhD level was so great, I was not prepared for it in my schedule because I was working full time. But I had already committed to it. By the time I've enrolled, I'm in my classwork. And that first week, I just remember thinking, like, this is absolute insanity. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do the schedule that I had originally thought I was going to be able to do. So I had to figure that out. But I never told myself, you can't get a PhD. You can't finish this program. This program is too hard for you. Ever. Not ever did I say that to myself. Fast forward to I'm done with my dissertation, and this is like the 3rd round of edits from my board. So this is 3.5 years later from when I started. And your dissertation is a really long paper. Mine is about 300 pages or 400 pages long, and they go through, your committee goes through and just nitpicks everything about your paper. And I remember sitting in my car one day. I went outside. I was at work, and I went outside to my car. I was on lunch break, and I remember calling my dissertation chair, and I said, I think I'm going to quit. I can't do this anymore. I've put my entire life for the last 6 months into writing this thing, into perfecting this thing. I've done 2 rounds of edits already. And he said to me, this is your last round of edits. You're not going to quit. And not 3 weeks later, I was defending the paper. So my point being here, the only thing keeping you from your goal is whatever it is that you believe. Sometimes it's easier. In the case of having a doctoral program, there are already requirements. They tell you up front, right? Hey, you need X amount of credits for classwork. You're going to need X amount of credits for if there's, certain, sometimes they make you go teach somewhere. Sometimes they make you sit in underneath people who are already doing the thing that your field of study is in. Whatever, right? There's requirements that they already tell you about before you even get there. So before you've even paid money, enrolled in the class, even applied to the college, they've already told you, hey, this is going to be the requirements in order to graduate. Life isn't like that, right? Life doesn't say to you, hey, if you do A, B, and C, you're going to get D. It doesn't say to that. It doesn't say that to you. So one of the things, again, why we need to go back into our experiences and really get all of the wisdom is to see and say to ourselves, there's every single thing that I've started, I've never quit. And that has been the silver thread that has connected all of these events. If I can say one thing about all of these events in my life, it's that I never quit. So history tells me that if I do not quit and I don't tell myself that quitting is an option and I don't have that type of mindset to begin with, there is going to be a way to reach my end goal. The other thing that you want to do is to take experiences and remember, like, hey, in this situation, I felt like I wanted to do this. For me, I felt sitting in my car that day, I wanted to quit. And I remember that day so clearly because it was literally the first time that I had ever thought about quitting something. And so I just remember feeling so overwhelmed, like I will never finish this and I won't be able to do it. So it's burned into my memory. And yet I had this expert who I had purposefully chosen as my dissertation chair who was telling me, you're going to be done with this thing in a month, just do the last round of edits, come here, defend the paper, defend your dissertation, and that's it. Like, you're almost done. So sometimes you have to commit to the plan. I've talked about this before in some of my other videos. I call it marrying your path. This is my path and I'm not leaving it. Somebody else could be doing something else and I'm not comparing my path to theirs because this one is mine and I'm marrying this one. And this one I'm not ever leaving, and I don't care what it requires of me. I don't care what it demands of me. I know that there's another version of myself that this path is going to help me develop, create, and pull out into existence as long as I stick with it. So really knowing yourself well and being able to see, okay, you know what? When the pressure gets to X amount, I have a tendency to start thinking of alternatives. I have a tendency to start doubting myself, doubting my choices, blah, 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 blah. You need to know yourself so that you can have an accurate game plan for yourself, because my game plan might be different than yours. If you know that you have a tendency to start doubting yourself straight away, maybe you need to write a letter to yourself that has just some reminders for yourself in it. And you've made a predetermined choice that, hey, anytime I doubt, I'm going to read this letter first. I'm going to think about this letter first. I want to talk about one more thing. I know this video is getting a little long, but I want to talk to you about one more thing really fast about self-sabotage and imposter syndrome. And I've done a couple of videos on both of these topics already, but what people can get in the habit of doing is creating cycles of self-sabotage. So it doesn't even matter what environment they get into. So whether it's school or work or it's interpersonal relationships or whatever, they start sabotaging the thing that they say they want, right? And this, again, has to do with not going into the past and getting the thing that they're afraid of looking at. Again, whatever experience is causing that fear response to start destroying that thing because you're afraid of whatever's going to happen if you actually achieve the thing you say you want to achieve. We have to be aware of these self-sabotaging cycles as well. So being able to see exact examples like going back into these experiences, like I'm talking about, being able to go back there, visit the place that is very fearful or causes you a lot of anxiety, going back and being able to look in there and get the wisdom that you need for your current situation, for your future situations, whatever it may be, is important. But also, so is seeing the bigger picture, seeing the fact that, hey, I always do self-sabotage. I always get to this point and then I start destroying the thing that I've created, or the thing that I'm trying to create, the thing that I'm going after. So again, the more you know yourself, the easier it's going to be to pinpoint these exact moments, these exact experiences, as well as be able to see the overall pattern of behavior, the cycles. So I hope this video has helped you kind of understand a little bit more about delayed gratification, and that sometimes the reason why we're not getting the thing that we want right away is because the process is more important, that we weed out these cycles of self-sabotage, that we go back into our fearful experiences from the past and we get the wisdom that we need for our present situation, for our future situations, and continue on the journey. Delayed gratification, I'm certain of it, has more to do with character than it does with whether or not you're doing the things right. It has more to do with helping you experience and understand yourself more than it does about, once you do A, B, and C, then you get D, like I was saying earlier. It's less about the outcome and it's more about the character that's built during the experience of not having the goal that you're working for right away. So again, I hope this video has helped you. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel below and then click on the little bell so that you're notified whenever I upload a new video to this channel. I will see you next week.